not big enough saying the right name anymore. Who knows? What
Right.
Well, that guy, there's one that always be poaching up there.
Oh, well.
Give me one of them. Okay. Ready to start the meeting, I guess? We time for good for already? We're a minute late now. Alright, call the meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Nick?
Here.
Floyd?
Here.
Valerie? Clay?
Here.
Andres?
Here.
Okay. Public comments.
There were none registered.
Okay. Review meeting minutes October 26th and December 15th.
They look good to me.
Good to me.
Need a motion?
Motion.
Andres, we good?
You're good.
Okay. He signed his checks. Motion.
Second?
Second.
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Okay. Email chassis vote November 28th, 2022. That's for the...
Yeah, we just need to get that submitted into the public minutes.
So,
When you guys, yeah, we just need a
so I
motion.
move we approve on email vote.
Yeah, yeah, because it has to be a public document, so.
I'll second.
Floyd?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Oh, you're up there. Clay?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Financial statements October, November, and December.
Rather than going through all of them, let's just do December's. I do have the other two if you guys want to see them. There wasn't a whole lot of change from the previous months. So for the month of December, we had $2,775,995 total cash on hand. Our overall expense was down $252,000 from the same time last year. Our accounts receivable, as of December 31st, was $1.3 million. And we had the same concerns as the previous months. Medical supplies were up 66% at $75,000 for the month. Fuel was up 13% for $69,000. But vehicle maintenance and vehicle repairs were down, so that was good.
So move to approve those.
To approve. Second.
Second.
Doing your job, huh?
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Okay. Administrative matters resolution 2023.
It's an annual resolution that you guys do.
Which one is that one for?
Administrative matters, it's basically saying, you know, confirming that our meetings are the fourth Wednesday of every month, that our meeting minutes are posted on tadems.com, as is our agendas. It's basically just all the administrative matters for the district.
To refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked through most of them. I thought they were.
Come on in.
Somebody died.
Hi!
I got to pee though, because I just drove in from Werfeno. Sorry.
And I just flew in from Werfel, man, my arms tired.
Okay. Motion? Am I gonna comment?
Any
I'd make a
questions?
motion to accept them. I'll second.
Okay.
Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Okay. Regular election and polling place election resolutions. Question of that.
So the first resolution was for a regular election scheduled to be held May 2nd, 2023. And in that one, we'll have 3 board positions available. And then typically you guys do a polling place election because it's less expensive than the mail-in ballots. So we need the resolutions for both of those topics.
So you want the first motion for election regulations?
Yes.
Okay. The motion for Regular elections, what we'll call regular elections.
We'll move to approve those.
Second.
You guys are on a roll. Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Okay, and we get to a motion for a polling place election. This is the location.
I'll move. Second.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Consultant contract. That'd be up to you, Janice, where we at with that?
For the consultant contract. So I obviously feel comfortable, moving on without the consultant. I mean, Dan's been invaluable with some of the stuff he's done, but we haven't used him a whole lot other than the injunction stuff and some of the building stuff. And so, not to take anything away from Dan, but I think we're at a point that
Can move on.
we can move on.
Okay.
I agree. And the only thing I would say is if he's, when we send him the letter, if he's willing to do, if there's something out there that comes up with the injunction would be the only thing, really. I think the building stuff is probably well past that and be moving on there. But I would think the only thing that I would think of that may potentially come up would be the injunction stuff. And I think the board will have to figure out how you guys want to proceed with that.
Well, so if we needed him to come up or for a hearing or something, we
Yeah.
could figure out payment at
Right.
that time.
After the contract expires.
Sure.
Right.
So
So-
when's the contract expire?
May?
May 14th?
May.
So I see the last paycheck that went out to him, so last of the.
Yeah, so this will be the last payment, and then he's on until May, I believe.
I think it's May 14th.
I'll find out,
He
yeah.
does need, the contract does require a 90-day written termination of
So
the
it would be,
contract.
So
So
it
we,
would be this February, March, April.
yeah.
Andres?
I would move that I'm sorry.
No, if I can quickly.
That
He's-
we go ahead and send the letter. We send a letter that will terminate the contract. We're not gonna renew the contract in May.
You good?
I was looking at the end of contract date.
Okay.
Yeah, because we probably can't say terminate contract, because then that would be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
just
At
not-
the
just
end
not
of it,
renew
at
it.
the, not
Yeah.
renew it, yeah.
Not renew it. Ready to go? Okay, get a motion to non-renew the contract, does that sound like it work?
Not renew,
Non-renew,
non-renew.
non-renew, not renew, non-renew.
Renew.
Alright. Motion,
Full motion to not renew the contract.
not renew.
I'll second.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Fleet management,
So this is gonna kind of get intermixed with the operations and the management report a little bit. So we got a couple things going on here. So in talking to Bubba, we decided that this command trailer that we built is probably a little bit more than what we need. It also happens that the sheriff's office is applying for a grant for a command trailer. So we wanted to ask the board's permission to sell the sheriff's office, as long as they get approved for the grant, our command trailer for $17,500, which is what we put into it. So we're getting everything back that we put into it. And then we will purchase a flatbed trailer for our UTV. And then we won't have to worry about the command trailer. We won't have to worry about getting it called out, that kind of stuff. So that's the first thing that we'd like to get permission for. If you guys are okay with that or makes sense.
Where If would you have any the- questions? Where would the UTV be stored? Still gonna be at our station. So, Indoors?
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
It'll be indoors. So questions, comments, concerns?
Hey Doc, I forgot about you sitting over there,
So
sorry.
sorry,
I
I gotta wake
apologize.
up. Okay. Tell me why it's too much for you guys, the command trailer. I don't know, I just want education.
It's just more than what we need, I think. So that was built with the idea of if there's a search and rescue or something,
Mhm.
we would take that out and manage the scene with it. Well,
Okay.
that's not really kind of our purview. I personally don't think. I mean, we're a part of search and rescue, but to depend on us to get that trailer out there in an event,
Mm-hmm.
could be a wildfire, could be search and rescue, could be something. I don't feel like that's the best use of our resources.
Mm-hmm.
And
What is on a command trailer?
so it's got TVs, it's got a
Oh.
generator, it's got computers, it's got
Okay.
table,
I
stools.
see.
So basically, you can just set up a whole operation in the back of it and manage that operation from the back of that trailer.
I see,
The
okay.
walls are dry erase boards, they could keep
Yep.
notes.
I see.
I mean, it was a great idea, but I feel like it's more than what we need,
Well, and since the county sheriff is responsible for
right?
those areas by statute,
Right.
it'd probably serve them better.
Yeah, and we feel like it would be better served as a county resource versus an ambulance district resource. And so we want to kind of get it that way to the county so they can manage it. We'll still go out if they need us, but they can manage that portion. So that's kind of our thought.
Because at the county level, it'll be used more for than just search and rescue.
Right.
Potentially, it could be called out or requested for county fires or something like that. But then that's our property going out there, somebody else. So the way it was designed, we felt that we can do exactly what we need to do for our mission with a smaller trailer.
Just one to strictly haul the UTV.
Absolutely. Because right now, our admin vehicles can't pull that trailer anyway. So we only have one vehicle that can do that. The county has multiple. So
Has the county expressed interest in that?
They did.
They did?
They did. They applied, so they took pictures of it and they put it on their grant already. So, as long as they get approved for the grant, if, with your permission, we can sell it and then purchase something smaller. That's kind of what we're
Issue
looking
with
for.
it?
No, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion on it? So a motion to approve the sale of the trailer
As long as the grant.
as long as the
is
grant is approved. Good enough?
I'll second.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Director's report?
We're not done.
Oh.
Totally not done. Good. Okay, so our second issue is the expedition that Dan was using, the transmission went out, so we need to replace the transmission on that. We've also got one of our rescue unit that we were gonna set up as a rescue unit. The tools from Raton haven't come through, it's been a year and a half. We're also having electrical problems with that truck because it's a 2009, it's older, harder to find parts, harder to troubleshoot, that kind of thing. So, well, that unit was down at Main Street Auto, the sheriff's office expressed interest in what we were doing with it. So we told them the issues it had, and they expressed interest in buying both of those vehicles, and they would replace the transmission on their dime if the board was agreeable to that.
So that's the Expedition, and what's the other one?
It's a 2009 Expedition,
Oh,
our
it's-
our
oh,
old
both.
rescue.
Both of them? are-
Yep,
Oh,
they're both Expeditions.
Oh, they're not. And
No,
they're
the other
both
one's a 2018.
Yeah, one's an
Oh, really?
18.
The
Wait.
2018 is the one with the transmission issue.
Really?
$7,000, $7,300 to
Of course.
For a
replace.
new transmission.
That sounds cheap.
And the 2009 has an electrical,
Electrical issues, yeah,
and
they're
I'm so
interested
sorry,
in-
who was interested?
the sheriff's office.
Well, they're sure coming up with,
Well,
They got some-
They're far
Didn't they get some
behind.
tax money or something?
they are struggling to find vehicles right now. I think they're sharing 5 vehicles between 8 road deputies and 3 administrators or something.
That's a good-
So, they expressed interest in buying both of those.
Sounds like a problem.
I think they would buy both of them for what, 10,000?
$10,000 and they'll pay for the transmission.
10,000 each?
No,
10,000 total, and they would pay for the transmission. That car, remind the board, that's the third vehicle that has it has 140,000 miles.
Which one?
That 2018.
2018. So I was talking with Gabe, and I don't think that that's gonna be worth putting more money into, especially $7,000.
With that mileage.
So that's what we come up to when we bring that to the board.
So they're wanting the one with electrical issues as well?
Right. Yeah, it's still low mileage, and they're really hurting for vehicles, so they take.
You guys
pretty
didn't
much-
get an estimate of what the cost of fixing that one would be, huh?
No, we didn't even figure it was worth looking into that one, because it's so old.
Oh, the 2009, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
About 15-year-old one?
14.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good idea
Let
to
them have them, man.
let them have
Do
them.
it. Get
If they're willing to
something
give
out
us
of
10
the
grand
way.
for them, I'd be like, here you go.
Yeah.
And just so the board knows, we're gonna be taking some of the equipment off,
Mhm.
the radios and, for sure, radio and some stuff off of the newer Expedition. Everything else in the older Expedition will go.
So if you guys are cool with that, we need a motion. to-
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I was ready to motion.
So
Other questions?
wait, hold on. I need to know what your motion,
To sell the 2 vehicles to the sheriff's office.
For $10,000.
It's a package deal, right? You can't just buy one or the other. You gotta buy both.
Package deal.
Okay. That's good.
And then, is there gonna be any kind of contract that they're as is, so they don't come back and say, well, you didn't, you know,
we'll have that on the
Okay.
bill of sale.
okay.
And everything was disclosed to them.
Yeah, yep. They're well aware of everything, and they were okay with it.
Okay, you made the motion, Andres, correct?
Wait a
Yes.
second.
Okay. Nick?
Yes.
Floyd?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
Andres?
Yes.
Okay, I won't get interrupt you again. Sorry.
Okay, we're almost done. Got one more. I can find it. Just got it. In addition to that, we would like to replace those vehicles. And so, to start it out with, we wanted to get a quote, so we can do this sometime in the near future and kind of plan for it. Well, with the climate that we have now, it's near impossible to get a quote. And so it just so happened that Chalmers has 2 F-150s available right now. And so they sent us a quote for them. He said he'd hold them until we get a yes or no.
What is that? Chalmers?
Ford dealership in New Mexico.
Oh, you're right home? Or-
No, it's.
No one ever.
They're in Albuquerque,
Okay.
but they work with the upfitter that we usually work with.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so we get fairly decent deals. So I want to ask 2 things. We want to replace those 2 vehicles, and in doing so, that will leave a vehicle for the captain once we hire that position.
Okay.
And it'll update our fleet. So the only thing that we can't ask for on state grants is admin vehicles. And so there's no way to get any kind of grant funding for this kind of stuff. So this is kind of stuff that we have to just basically eat. So the quotes to buy those 2 vehicles, responder packages, is $92,756. So those are just for the vehicles. In addition to that, I would like to ask for another $50,000 to upfit both of them with lights, radio, that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, we don't have the time to request a quote and wait for it to come through, because these vehicles will be gone as soon as we tell them no. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're also gonna mark these vehicles, because we wanna be out in the community more, and we want people to see the ambulance district
What
out.
year are they?
23s.
23?
Wow.
2 for $90,000?
Yes.
Sounds pretty cheap. I just bought a truck. And it wasn't 45,000.
Well,
I'm sure it wasn't.
Well,
let
plus
me,
50.
yeah, let me,
Plus the 50 to.
plus the 50. So to put that in perspective, we looked and tried to get quotes. We looked at Chevy Tahoes, and we can't get, the order bank goes up in July, and they don't know if they'll build them or not, kind of like Ford when they canceled our last
And they
one.
didn't have pricing.
And they didn't have pricing for the new ones, and they had nothing on the ground. I called Spradley just on a whim, and I said, can you tell me what because those were state bid price. Those come in at $44,000, I think. These trucks are coming in at $46,000. Bradley, the salesman, told me that base model LS Tahoe two-wheel drive starts at $54,000. Just to get four-wheel drive is $59,000.
Just a truck?
For
Yeah.
just the truck.
Just the
Now,
truck.
that's a civilian one, that's not on the state bid. Because I thought, well, maybe we could go into the civilian side of things and then do that. And it's astronomical. So,
And I don't think it'll cost 25,000 a piece to upfit these, but we don't wanna have to come back and say, oh, shoot.
We need to.
So we wanna have a little bit of wiggle room,
Yeah,
but we're obviously gonna try and do it as fiscally responsible as possible.
so just humor me, why two?
So we're getting rid of two.
Yeah,
So,
but the one's been sitting there, not being used for quite a while.
well, cause we don't have that captain spot. So we weren't able to hire that spot with the consultant contract
Right,
because we didn't have the funds.
right,
And so once that's done, we're hoping to hire that position, because that's a needed position.
okay.
So we're hoping to hire that position by the end of the year, to start training it and fill it.
And the other one then is for,
So we'll both have a vehicle, and then the captain will have a vehicle, so that's the three.
don't you have one now?
yes, so right now, we still have one 2009 still in the fleet.
Pickup.
No, it's
Oh,
an
Oh,
Expedition.
that's the Expedition, then.
So we sold one 2009,
Right,
you guys did that, and we still have,
I
I'm
see.
driving another 2009 right now.
right,
So basically, all of the admin vehicles, if this goes through, will be 2020 or newer,
okay.
with warranties and
Okay,
everything
we sell these
else.
ones in the sheriff's office too?
No, no.
Oh, here's a question. I'm sorry, and this is education for me as well. So we're gonna pull the radio and some of the equipment off the 2018 Expedition that needs a new transmission that we're gonna sell.
Mhm.
Is that equipment usable? Like, would you be able to use it?
Yes.
In some of these
So
new
so
ones
that's
to cut
gonna
down
cut
on the price a little
that's
bit?
gonna cut down
Yeah.
on
Okay.
that price of the outfit, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, because radios are really expensive, especially for the radios you put in.
Yeah, so the radio will come out and the Wi-Fi system will come out of that Expedition.
so if the cost of 50,000 might be a little bit less than,
We're hoping,
yeah,
we're
That's,
hoping.
that's the high end.
We're just
Yeah.
Yeah.
trying, well,
yes.
we're trying to think on the high end. I mean, it's hard to say with parts and everything. We're trying to go a little bit higher than what we expect.
The worst part is you can't find cars anywhere.
Right.
That's the scary part. If you guys, are these black or white?
White.
White, okay. So yeah, so the bad thing is if you don't find these and we go, say, down 6 months on the road, you may not find them.
Sure.
Well, I think Gabe brought up another real important part. Since Gabe has taken over as chief, we have really tried to get out more in the county, in the community, which includes the county, with different things, whether it's the parades or just every event that we can go on to. And that's another thing that both of us talked about when Dan was here. He liked the black vehicles. They weren't marked. They don't know who we are. We would represent that's our brand.
Yeah, I like that idea of marking, because that's exactly right. People see you out there and go, oh yeah, ambulance service.
Yeah.
We know them, yeah.
I want to be visible. I want to be different. I want them to be white. I want to be different. I want to be visible. So
Appreciate that.
moving forward, that's kind of what we're looking at doing.
All right.
And I guess to help ease everybody's mind a little bit, I forgot to mention, so we didn't end up buying those cardiac monitors last year.
Oh,
We ended up talking to the rep, and our monitors are in decent condition. They felt like we can get a couple more years out of them. And once we started looking at those other monitors, it was gonna be less cost effective in the long run, because it's 2 modules, and it doesn't have a built-in AED module. Well, with us having to put on BLS crews more often, we had to put AEDs out there. So on top of those 5 monitors, we would have had to buy 5 AEDs, because we don't know when we're gonna have a BLS on-call crew. So we decided to hold off a little bit longer for that. We can apply for that on the next year's grant. So we still have that 180,000 or so that we didn't spend for the Medicaid stuff on the monitors. So we've got some funds available, if that helps ease everybody's mind a
Mhm.
little bit, but just some things we're looking at.
So will you end up with 4 vehicles then?
We'll potentially have one backup that we can do something with, but like I said, if you get in an accident or something,
And one is,
you're gonna wanna have at least one spare. So, and that one's running okay right now, so,
that's the one you drive?
Mhm.
Okay.
so it'd be good to hold on to that for a little while longer anyway.
I'm good with it, man. Should we do a motion?
Okay, make a motion.
I'll
I'll make a motion.
I'll make-
Purchase
Make a motion that we're gonna purchase
2 F-150s
F-150s.
and 2 lighting packages. So the trucks are at 92,756.00 and $50,000 in equipment through MHQ.
We're gonna get 2 bids,
Oh, 2 bids.
so that we
Okay.
can get them as cheap as possible.
Okay. So $50,000 for lighting equipment.
That's the motion.
Got it.
Second.
I'll second.
Alright. Andreas over there. Sign some checks and make some motions.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
That's all I have for food.
Sure.
I think so. That's a lot.
Okay, well, you're back again because you're down the director. You're back
Okay.
up.
So, I'll skip November and December's, but I'm gonna skim through them to make sure I don't miss anything. I know I'll pass these around if you guys wanna see them. So we did NGO tube training in November. So with Dr. DeWall coming on, he wants us to do a lot more advanced type skills. So we're approved to do NG and OG tubes, so we're doing that. I submitted the state Medicaid cost report in November, so that was the 180,000 that we got back. I submitted the next cycles, so we'll be finding out about that probably mid-year or so, how much we're getting back on that one. In December, we went up to Pueblo and did the DOLA grant presentation. And then December 22nd, we were awarded the DOLA grant. So we were awarded $750,000 towards the new building. So that was awesome.
Great job, Barb.
Thank you.
Yeah, Barb did all that work.
And Gabe was the eye candy.
December
Whatever works.
19th, we took 1901 to Excellence for remount. So that rig's up there to get remounted.
What's the time frame of turnaround?
They said they'll get it back to us before June. So the deadline is June 30th, and we told them we needed enough time to get it to MHQ to get the decals put back on it. So they said they should have it done by then.
That's the two-wheel drive unit?
Yes.
And
That's what
I talked to
transfers.
Lisa today, just a little update on that. They've already taken the lights off that need to be replaced. They're gonna start working on that, prepping the chassis to paint, cause it came in as white. And, so just so you know, I told her I wanted it back by the end of May.
Sure.
So, we'll see. And I also asked her about the other chassis that we have on order, and she says that it's ordered. So, we'll see what Ford does to us.
So medical direction, Dr. DeWall's working on guideline updates. We'll have our 23 guidelines here at the end of the week, I think, is what you said. And then we're putting on a refresher at the end of this week, so we'll be able to update everybody on those. EMSMC, we signed a contract with them to take on quick med claims, our old billing company's pending accounts receivable. So they're still inputting that data into their into their system. So once that's updated, they'll give us an amount of what they think they can collect on all that old stuff, and then they'll start collecting on it. And then once we have those numbers, we're gonna go back to Quick Med Claims and tell them, we feel like you owe us this amount, and see if we can get anything out of them. The USDA loan, so we're waiting on a few more updates.
I'm so
from-
sorry, so the new billing cannot retro and get that money for you?
Some they can, so
Okay,
that's
but
what they're doing.
Okay,
They're putting in their system to see how much they can go back after,
okay,
and some they will, and then they'll give us a dollar amount of what was outstanding that's
but
not
they can't do it
collectible.
all, okay,
And then we'll go to the old billing company and say, hey,
okay,
we feel like you owe us this, and we'll start negotiations with them.
okay.
USDA loan, obviously that was approved, but with the building stuff, we're waiting on some updated numbers from Doug Beltry. Once we get those, and those should be any day now, he said at the end of the month. Once we get those, we'll submit all that information, the USDA and to the bank, so we can secure an interim loan. And Beltry is hoping that we can break ground around March. So we're looking at that.
12250 heavy call for the new Oxford line for mail party for Pump Card Pass and Trinidad ambulance still on to receive 12250 heavy call for mail party Pump Card Pass.
And then just some quick updates. So I started gathering information for the Medicare cost reporting. So we were selected in year one to report to Medicare, and that year one was last year. So now I have until May to submit all the information that they want. I haven't seen that they've opened up the website, which is kind of frustrating. But once I open up the website, then I'll start inputting information there. And that's similar to the Medicaid cost reporting, except on a larger scale. So I've started gathering that data, and we'll put that in. January 12th, we met with the Stryker rep, talked about cardiac monitors and some stuff, so we're working on some stuff there. We also had the supply audit with Dixon Waller. He came in, looked at some stuff, no issues there, so that went okay. January 16th, we went through our ketamine training. So all of our paramedics are officially up to date on ketamine and can continue to give ketamine. I started the state grant process, so this year we're going to go after 2 more Lucas devices so that all of our ambulances have Lucas devices. And we're going to get a transport ventilator for our transfer rig. January 19th, I met with Chief Perot. He wanted to request ambulances on all fire standbys. I told him that was doable as long as we have 2 ambulances in the county, and as long as it's within reason. I told him if we've got an ambulance on a transfer or something and it's up in Santa Fe Shore Ranch, I can't send an ambulance up there. And he was okay with that. And we also have an agreement with Honey Fire, because every other fire district has a QRT ambulance that we provide, except for Fisher's Peak. They didn't want one because they're so close in proximity to us. And so Honey has an automatic aid agreement with them anyway, so they said that they will provide the ambulance as long as they have personnel available. So we've got 2 avenues to alleviate that issue, and he was okay with that. And then Monday we helped with lockdown drills at Fisher's Peak Elementary, Trinidad Middle School, and Trinidad High School. We want to start getting back into the schools and letting them know that we're there and seeing how the systems work and stuff. So we're starting to work with Trinidad Police Department and Nick and getting back into the schools. So we were over there helping with the drills. And that's all I have.
David found a problem that I missed.
Yeah. Bubba did.
Bubba
Good
did.
job, Bubba.
Good job, Bubba. Get a star.
2.
Gold star.
The keys.
Oh, yeah. I knew about the keys.
Bubba didn't know about the keys.
Yeah, I did. That wasn't my doing, is that when they stopped that there, look at my keys. All right.
All right. Operations, I'll just briefly go through the numbers. October, 185 calls for service. November, 220 calls for service. December was 188 calls for service. IFTs, 33 in October, 34 in November, 31 in December. Skip the miles, I'll come down. So for Total trip numbers for 2022 was 2,431. Total reports, so some of those calls had multiple patients, which turned out to be roughly 90 some more patients. So total trip numbers 2,431, total reports 2,524. Total IFT miles for 2022 is 85,814. So one of the other things is, as we're looking out and getting out in the community, we're also getting out at the state level. When we were at MSAC, we were asked to participate in, or start participating in the state MSAC organization. At this time, I'm working with the legislative committee. They call it the advocacy committee. We meet every Friday through the legislative calendar. We're working right now. We're working on. I'll pass this around. This is some of the things we have. Gabe and I'll both be representing Trinidad Ambulance and our region at the Capitol on the 7th. We'll go up on the 6th and be there on the 7th, come home on the 8th at the Capitol to meet with the lawmakers. These are kind
In
of
February, you mean?
in February.
Okay.
Yep, February 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we'll be meeting with them. They have planned a kind of meet and greet with the EMS section, and we're kind of dovetailing that with with one of the nursing associations at the University Club to try to get our message out. One of the things is right now there's a bunch of new legislators in office right now. So there's not going to be a lot of movement as far as bills that we're going to actually start up, but getting the word out on a lot of things is actually going to start moving. Some of those things are EMS funding, ensuring EMS is an essential service. Right now, EMS is not considered an essential service like fire and police. Another one that I thought was really cool, which I didn't know that much about the whole legislative process, but turns out that we have a lobbyist group. There's 3 lobbyists that work with MSAC, and then there's some from like GMR for AMR and that type of thing. But our lobbyist group is supporting both pharmacies and EMS. And one of the things that we decided to oppose or to support, even though we might not get support from our pharmacy folks, is a flat rate on EpiPens. We want to make sure that those are affordable for the people that are out there, and what we're seeing is they're just going off the charts. Another thing that we're supporting is CPR for high school students, junior high and senior. And then there's some other things in there. There'll be they got some crazy funding ideas that they're looking at, that they want to pull from. They have some ideas. I don't want to kind of put it out right now, but they're looking at different ideas on how to help fund EMS. Right now, at the last call this last Friday, there's 3 ambulance services in Colorado that are basically bankrupt, done. One of them's in Gunnison, one of them's in Rangeley, and the other one is Lake County. So there's 3 of them that are in severe dire straits right now. A lot of that staffing, but also funding, everything that we struggle with as well. Prices, everything going up. So another thing that we're definitely keeping an eye on, and I voiced my opinion about, is Governor Polis is looking at trying to work ways to lower property tax. Unfortunately, that's where we get half of our income. So there is a big concern about that. So we'll definitely be watching that and how that moves forward. The other thing was, one of the things we were talking about safety in this injunction, and Clay, you brought it up, and we did the research on it. So what I'm gonna hand around, I'm gonna send it two ways. This is the ground assessment, risk assessment tool scoring and logic rationale. This is, you'll see on this page is Trinidad Ambulance, Teller County, and Grand County. What we did was we took between Teller County and Grand County, which the one for Teller County is the same one risk assessment tool that Flight for Life uses, very, very similar. And then in my research, I also found one for Gold Cross Ambulance that does all of the ground transportation for the Mayo Clinic. So I have this as well. I used something that was closer to home as our factors. Just the scoring is a little bit different as far as the high numbers. So we took that as a more objective tool at the request of Clay to come up with something that just didn't say we're just not doing transfers because of X. So this is going to score our clinicians, our drivers, weather, and conditions. So that we'll be able to do that. So wanted the board to know that, be aware of that, and the time that went into research some of that. Grand County did a lot of the research on it. They're kind of the same thing. Some of the things I took out of Grand County's was because of pass closures and because they have to go over 2 mountain passes to get to Denver. So I took some of that stuff out. But basically, that'll be our assessment tool that we'll want to start probably sooner than later, so that we are taking an objective look at if there's a reason why we're not doing transfer.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's a good idea to be objective and, as I mentioned before, my son flying, the crew can call crew rep.
Right.
4 hours. Unfortunately, what they were doing was taking that 4 hours and doing all their charting, getting caught up. Well, then they weren't resting, and then they wanted to extend their rest period, so that became a rub. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to put some numbers to it and say this is what we're looking at, because it's a valid point.
No, it is, and it actually come up this last weekend. There was a transfer that was requested, and we did deny it. The main reason we denied it was I-25 was closed. Now, the crazy thing was, and that's the other thing is when that happens, it's not just Gabe and I usually communicate. I'm looking at the weather cameras, looking at the weather, looking at the amount of calls that the crews have been running. That particular day, the crews had 14 calls. 4 of those were in the county. 2 of those were deaths, so it took them longer on those calls. And the main thing was the highway was closed. The bad thing was when I called CSP, they said, well, northbound is open. So we could get up there, but we couldn't get home. So, and if they're closed bad enough to go that, and the cameras were just horrible. So that's where we're at, and I'm kind of glad that we have been talking about the risk assessment stuff. Gabe and I sat through a very good, it was actually Grand County's deputy chief that put on a class at MSAC for risk assessment. And so he did the same thing that I did once before last year, was said, well, if anybody's gonna go, this patient absolutely has to go. If anybody's gonna go, I'm gonna drive them. He said, he told a story that he did that and got in 2 accidents on that same call. Worked out a lot better for me and the crew and the shift, but it's just, we gotta be careful.
And
If it's a no-go, it's a no-go. It doesn't matter if you.
Right.
Yeah.
And this tool will be used on every call out like that. So on a nice sunny day in the summer, they're still gonna do the risk assessment, so that they're in the habit of doing it all the time and doing it the same way.
And can you build it into, I don't know, your system, in your handhelds or your PCs or whatever?
We might be able to put it on the iPads.
We can look at
Something
that.
we can look at.
Some, make it a little easier instead of paper. maybe if they have the little database, a spreadsheet or something that you've built, perhaps they can just go in.
Well, we're gonna keep an eye on that too, because this is something that, one of the fears that we had, and a question I had for the Grand County Deputy Chief was, because of that, and you're assessing the crew and the clinician, we will keep an eye on that to make sure that crew rest, those type of things, those are not going, they're just saying, oh, I'm too tired, for whatever reason. Now, we have the opportunity that we can swap some things around a little bit. But we're gonna keep an eye on that too. If that becomes a problem, then obviously we'll address that.
Yeah, it becomes some good data points and you know, someone would quickly show up if like, man, every time you get a transfer, you're too tired. What's going on? You know? So
Right.
that's an.
And I don't think so, and
No,
what,
I don't think so.
what Grand County said was, they were appreciative, the employees were appreciative that they were thinking of their safety.
Yeah.
So, in turn, they were honestly reporting what they had.
Yeah.
So.
Does that, I'm not sure how to word this, does that put any liability, so the risk assessment says, no, we can't do this transport, but now you get a 911 call up Highway 12, where they just said where does that fall as far as, is there gonna be anything to come back and say, well, why you couldn't do this transport, you can run a call
No,
30 miles
because,
up Highway 12?
because that's a limited time,
Okay,
whereas this is longer distances, nighttime, bad weather, whatever the case is. That's a lot quicker response time. Adrenaline's
and-
going,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, so,
Okay.
so it's different.
And for a transfer, patients are in a hospital.
Right.
For 911, they're not.
Right,
So
right.
it's a more risk to the patient, you know,
That's
on
on the
Highway
ground.
12.
Yeah.
You
Right,
know,
where
as
they're not getting
opposed to
any
somebody
care.
sitting in the
Right,
hospital, yeah.
yeah, we've got the obligation to do 911 regardless,
regardless.
so.
So is this a paramedic fill us out or an EMT?
Both.
Both. Anybody can fill them out?
Well, I think probably that's a good question. I think we'll leave it up to the ALS provider, but it asks questions for both the driver and the clinician. So whoever's in the front and the back.
So it'll affect them both as one because they have to both work together.
Well, no, absolutely, absolutely. But one of the other things that they found out too was, and this is I didn't bring them out. During the research, there was a bunch of stuff on drowsy driving and different things like that. They're saying that drowsy driving is just as bad as being drunk.
Oh, yeah.
So why they're asking not only the person that's driving, right? That's an important job. But obviously, if the person in the back is tired enough where they're going to make med errors and cause harm, then we don't want that either. So it's actually the risk assessment is for both individuals. So
What's your time frame on getting this put together for here?
it's ready to go now. The only thing would be to get it out to all the crews. So
And train them on it.
and train them on it, and which will be minimal time.
And you have this already with Trinidad ambulance and everything that's already put together?
Everything's ready to go. Just have to shoot some copies.
Cool. It was a good idea.
That's a great idea. Guess it gives a little bit of, teeth in the game here, this is the reason why we're not just pulling it out of thin air saying,
Right.
this is why.
Well, and once again, I want the board to know that these decisions weren't made lightly if we weren't gonna do a transfer in the past. This is gonna give it the reality and the actual,
Our numbers.
Because I'll tell you,
Facts.
if I listen to some of the crews, they're like, well, I don't want to take a transfer. It's like, you know what, the roads aren't bad, you're taking a transfer. So this is going to be something that everybody's going to look at. We'll be able to do that and successfully make sure that it's safe because it's not only the crew, it's the patient. And here's the other thing is, knock on wood, we have been very fortunate in the 15 years that I've been here to only have one incident on the road. So that's all I have.
What do you need from us? You need a motion, what do you?
I don't think so, I think it's operational, I think it's just something I wanted you guys to be aware of. It was a request from Clay.
I think it's a great idea, I think that would be a great idea.
Well, so I'd like to note it in the minutes, if you would, that, you know, good job for these guys working on that and putting it together, and the implementation, I'm sure will go well.
Thank you.
I agree.
Good job, Bubba.
Here, here.
Over here.
Here, here.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Check.
miscellaneous, that's Fleet 2, I'm guessing, right, Bubba?
Oh, so all I'm gonna tell you is we're trying to keep them on the road. It's harder getting parts, but I'll tell you right now, we have, out of the 4 that we have in stock, we have 3 of them up and running. So, we try to balance that the best we can. So, it's challenging,
I think it's challenging everywhere.
but.
Alright. Miscellaneous? Once, twice. Okay.
So,
Next meeting is going to be
22nd of February.
22nd of February. 2023 at 4:30.
Oh, that's Ash Wednesday.
Okay. German?
I moved to adjourn.
I'll second.
Nick,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Valerie,
Yes.
Clay,
Yes.
Andres.
Yes.
Time is 5:24. Well, let me go by clock. Because that clock's 2 minutes
I
ahead.
mean, I know it's bad out there, I can't find cat
5:22.
food for my cats.